What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the Triple H podcast. Happy Hour Hoops, everything NBA all the time. Steve, Jake, and myself. Still the NBA Finals, guys. But we got some other news going on too. I don't know. I gotta ask this right off the bat because I think it's probably partially just me still being bitter. But does it not feel like the NBA Finals are going on to you guys too? Or is it just me being out of it?
No, it's not just you. I think that the presentation has been abysmal to make this feel like the NBA Finals. It feels like you're just watching a regular season game. Obviously, the first game wasn't. Couldn't even feel like an NBA Finals game because that was over from the tip essentially. The second game felt like a Finals game to everyone who watched it. But I think you're right, Donnie, with obviously we have 2 days in between each game, so that's kind of tough to keep the hype going. And I love basketball. I love both these teams. I don't really have a strong rooting interest. I like both teams. I like both superstars. I've talked about it, but it doesn't really feel like in between these games that we are in the middle of the NBA Finals. And I think that partly comes into, the type of the markets that are in the team. You got Denver and you got Miami, which is, a bigger one. But this isn't really what, the NBA script writers would have loved to write, where you don't have, that superstar that they love. I know Jokic is, and I'm not saying he's not. He's the best player in the NBA right now. But a lot of casual fans, I'm not calling all of them out, but a lot of them didn't really watch much of Jokic. They just kind of see Jokic's box scores and like, oh, this guy's kind of good. So it's nice for people who are really into the NBA to, get a good look at two teams that have been incredible. These playoffs have been a lot of fun to watch. But I think you're right. It comes down to the presentation, comes down to the marketing aspect of it, where it really doesn't feel like the NBA Finals to a lot of fans. However, for the people who've been watching basketball from October till now, it's nice to watch these two teams go to war, because I think we were talking about it. Game 2 was one of those first games, that we felt like these playoffs were like, that's a finals game. That was a battle. That was a war. But I think outside of the games, I think you could make a very, strong argument that it doesn't really feel like a finals. Also, too, ESPN. Also, too, what is this? What is this like bottom score line here? What's this presentation like? It's first off, it's a disgrace that we don't get the boys on TNT for every game before this. But secondly, so ESPN, you got to do better. You got to do better with the presentation, man. You have to do better. This is the NBA Finals, and they're treating it like they're playing on a random Thursday night.
I think me and Jake have talked about this every year since we've had the podcast. Like, where is the trophy logo on the court? Can we bring that back, please?
Where's make your finals feel like a big deal? Like, where's the pageantry? Like, you should have a parade to the arena. Like, why don't we have a red carpet before the show? Like, they should. I would rather have it be obnoxious and treat these guys like they're showing up to the Oscars for every game than for it to, exactly what you said, feel like a Thursday night in January, Nuggets Heat at 10 o'clock and 700,000 people are watching. The simplest thing, the scoreboard?
Oh,
the craziest thing. I just that's what took me out of it feeling like the finals, to be honest, Dunny. The first thing you said, I was like, yeah, the fucking scoreboard doesn't look any different.
It's the same as the regular season.
Even I thought the gold scoreboard was pretty stupid, thought it was pretty ugly. At least you knew,
like, this is the
NBA Finals scoreboard.
Yeah.
And you know what the NFL does? When they host the Super Bowl, they change to a new scoreboard that they keep for those years to do it. Why not just debut a new one? At least do something new. Don't just do what you've done all year. It's terrible. Like, I don't know how that got through. And then they went back with it with game 2. Like, didn't he see the criticism and decide that you should change anything? No, it's just the little YouTube TV logo that pops up all the time.
That's insane, man. We'll have more NBA Finals talk in just a little bit here. We want to get the criticism out of the way first. We'll break down more of the gameplay in a little bit. We're gonna do news and notes first, starting with Steve. Steve had to remind me here, but the Phoenix Suns do have a new head coach, and his name is Frank Vogel, NBA champion Frank Vogel, back in the NBA. It seems like he was being shunned for a couple of years there after he won the Lakers a championship. Didn't really get any jobs after that. And now here he is with the Phoenix Suns, tasked to get Chris Paul a ring, as we were talking about before we got on here. So Devin Booker, Chris Paul, KD, you have your head coach, and he is Frank Vogel. Jake, we'll start with you. What did you think about this move? I know you probably like Vogel. You watched him help LeBron get a ring, or you watched him be a part of LeBron and AD's ring in the bubble. What are your thoughts here?
I think it's I'm a listener of Bill Simmons, and he was a couple weeks ago was basically like, who was it? Kevin Young was the other guy that was being mentioned a lot. He was the assistant coach. Yep. He said Kevin Young's going to be the Suns head coach. Like, that's a scoop. You could take that. And Bill doesn't usually say a lot of things like that, so I just kind of like ran with that. Hadn't heard any other news. So then seeing the Vogel news, and then Simmons even commented on it. He's like, legitimate shock. They changed it. Wanted a more proven guy. Vogel's the most proven guy really on the market out there. Like you said, recently won a championship. Probably still should be the Lakers coach, just not how the Lakers and LeBron move really like that. Yeah. And so Darvin Ham's in there, and they had good success this year. So I guess, I mean, at least eventually, so it all worked out. But this is a situation that, I mean, is it more talent? Like, is it a better situation with the top tier talent? Would you rather walk into, I mean, you have LeBron, which is a different scenario a couple years ago, LeBron and AD, but Booker and KD looking at the West this year. Do you think Frank and the moves that they can make, I guess the first thing they really have to address is the Ayton issue with whatever's going to happen with him this summer. But the rosters, I feel like he did a really good job with that team and top tier talent. This team was well positioned this year. He should be able to do the same thing, and they should be a top 3 seed in the West next year. And really the biggest thing he's going to be able to help improve is their defense, which is what he was really helpful with in LA. They had a very strong defense anchored by AD there. What do you think, Steve? You're a big Frank Vogel guy. So,
I mean, people forget that Lakers team missed the playoffs. Then they bring Frank Vogel in and they win the NBA championship.
That is true.
And, you know, say what you want about the bubble. It's still an NBA championship. And I have been one to never discount anyone who's won a championship in the bubble before, because, you know, it's an impressive feat. It's just like winning an NBA title. But the big thing here is that I've always believed in Frank Vogel. I like Frank Vogel as a coach. Thought he got a kind of raw end of the deal in Indiana when things really weren't kind of working out, and it's a really tough spot there. We know how the Lakers go and how coaches go with LeBron. It's just, you know, when he likes you, he likes you, and when he doesn't, he doesn't, and you're out. And Frank Vogel can, you know, kind of be a fall guy there. Is he a generational head coach? Is he going to change the whole culture landscape of Phoenix? Probably not. But the thing is that he's got an established team. He's won a championship with an established team before. Like that, I said, and it is a fact. They did miss the playoffs the previous season. They were kind of underperforming, and then they win it. And I know it's a bubble year. I know there's a bunch of other stuff that was going on, but still took a team and won a title. Yes, you had LeBron and AD. That helps a little bit. But guess what? He's got Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. So he's going to an established team. He's going to a team who's made runs before. And I think it's smart. I think if you're Phoenix, I think that's the way you go. And I think with teams where the window's closing and where you have a veteran team that's established, that's made runs, you want to go for a guy who has experience, a newer head coach and whatnot. And I think Vogel might be the right move. He's probably not going to be the coach in Phoenix for long. If it works out really well, maybe. But I could see this as maybe a couple year experiment here where you just bring an established guy, maybe kind of, warm the seat for someone else, but you have good players already, and it's just changed things up. And like you said, the biggest thing I think against Vogel is he's been a very, very solid defensive minded coach throughout his, time in the NBA. That's where Phoenix struggled with mightily, and you saw that in the Nuggets series. Didn't matter how many points they were scoring. They couldn't stop anyone on Denver. So I kind of like the move. It's an established veteran. I'm a Frank Vogel fan, meme or no meme. I think it's a good move.
Yeah, I'm with you, Steve, and I think it's definitely the right move personnel-wise. I think you were touching on that a little bit, but we were talking about last week how we thought the move with the Bucks going with the 15-year assistant and kind of a younger guy who doesn't have much head coaching experience, but a guy that the players within the system like. I don't think that applies for Phoenix because you do have all these guys who are towards the end of their career, or not all these guys, but, particularly Kevin Durant and Chris Paul, emphasis on Chris Paul, and then Devin Booker, who's been there for a while. And, clearly something wasn't right with Monty Williams. but you bring in a guy who's coached a bunch of teams, a bunch of different stars, and like you said, he's defensive minded. So it almost just like it reads well. Like Frank Vogel fits with this team. I think they went the right direction instead of going young or trying to reinvent the wheel with the assistant coach or someone who's never had the experience before. I think this was the right move for Phoenix. I also like to remind people that, because I saw this on Twitter, obviously whatever happened in LA, whether it was LeBron's choice or not, Vogel was out the door. And I think people see that as a negative or like a smear on Frank Vogel's coaching career. Like, he still got them there. He won the championship with them. Whether or not they wanted to bring him back, that didn't happen. But let's not forget how successful he was with those Paul George teams in Indiana as well. I mean, like he coached those guys up. He made a star out of Roy Hibbert, and we haven't heard of him in years. But he was one of the best centers in the league when he was under Frank Vogel. So I think he kind of gets a bad rep, honestly, and it's a little bit because he just walked away from that Lakers team after the championship. But yeah, I like the move by Phoenix. I think maybe it's not an eye-opening move and it doesn't catch many headlines. I honestly forgot to put it in the news and notes. It's Frank Vogel. He's kind of a boring guy, but hell of a coach. So I like the move.
I think that's the longest anyone's talked about Frank Vogel before. So there we go, guys.
Kind of a boring guy, but a great coach. He's such
that's Frank Vogel, man.
Frank Vogel.
Don't disrespect Vogel, baby.
If someone said that to me when I had my eyes closed, I think I would just draw Frank Vogel. Let's stay at the coaching news here. We'll just do the coaching news, and then we have some Team USA stuff, which is always fun. And then the big news. But yes, Steven Silas joins Monty Williams in Detroit. So there's rumors about where Silas was going to go. Honestly, a lot of rumors that he was going to come to the Boston Celtics here. That was more so before the season had ended. He was, hanging around a lot, meeting a lot with Brad Stevens. He must have liked the opportunity better to join Monty Williams in Detroit. But, I mean, this is kind of small scale, just assistant coach. I thought it was interesting because, we saw Silas lose the Houston job. Then he was rumored to go a bunch of places. And here he lands on Jake's favorite team, the Detroit Pistons.
Good luck, buddy.
Hey, I'll root for him.
A bag.
Yeah, Monty Williams got paper.
What is it? 5 years, $72 million, I think, is what the deal was. That's like,
yeah,
I can't do math that quick. That's just a lot. It's more than $10 million a year. That's for sure, which is a crazy amount for a head coach. That's my limit. That's like my litmus, like in my brain right now. Like, a coach making more than $10 million a year is like, why is that happening for any sport? So just seeing that sticker shock for Monty Williams, a guy that, as we were just talking about in Phoenix, kind of got unceremoniously fired by the new owner who came in and clearly wanted to change the direction and just figured that would be the start of it. So who knows? Monty did it. Obviously, they went to the finals. They were a good team last year. Maybe this is what he's built for perfectly, is molding a young team. And obviously, Detroit gave him a large investment. He's going to get, hopefully, time with this group to grow and that's what they're hoping for here. I don't know if he's that guy, but we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, man. Like, I think Monty's a great coach. And we don't really know much after that. Like, obviously he got the Phoenix group there. He seemed well-liked the first couple of years, and then who the hell knows what happens this past year. He seemed to lose the locker room a bit. Obviously, him and DeAndre Ayton didn't see eye to eye at all. And you mentioned it, Jake. Paying a head coach like that type of money in that many years in any sport is a little bizarre, let alone to coach a team that is filled with question marks as well. Like, yes, this is one of the more exciting groups. They have crazy young talent all across their roster, but also they just have one of the worst records in the NBA. Not proven at all. Cade's already been injured once in his very young career. And we were thinking maybe they'd have the first or second pick. They dropped all the way down to the fifth pick in what we think is kind of a weaker draft class here this year.
Yep.
So
I mean, a top heavy class, right? Especially when you come in dead last, you're expecting we got to at least be in the top 3. And I think if you're in the top 3, and I know Brandon Miller has his baggage. I get it. Brandon Miller, not a good guy. But Wemby and Scoot, you're looking at those top 3, and those are one of the guys. Like, that's who we got to get in that top 3. And then for Pistons fans, you fall out of the top 5. You got a bunch of guys who have potential, right? Look at the roster after Cade, after Ivy, your young core. A lot of guys that have potential but just haven't got there. They've shown flashes, right? You're talking about guys like James Wiseman, who came there in the second half of the year. Guy like Marvin Bagley, Alec Burks, I believe, is on the roster. You got Bogdanovich, who I wouldn't say Bogdanovich is going to have untapped potential, but he's a guy every now and then scores 30 points. Every now and then just scores 30 points. So it's a different situation for Monty Williams than previously in Phoenix. The only thing I can think of is when he was sitting in Phoenix and I got the shirt on, he probably had a nice cup of coffee with Sean McVay, and the team's like, all right, he's connected to the Sean McVay coaching tree. Let's pay him everything we got.
That could be it. I think for him, I can't make too much sense of it from the Pistons' point of view, other than one of the better. Obviously, there's a ton of good coaches available this offseason. They went out, got their guy. He's done good things in recent years. The way I see it for him is he's probably like, hey, I started to lose this locker room. I was dealing with a lot of egos in Phoenix. I was dealing with Chris Paul, who probably thought he knew the game better than I do. And then he gets to go here. He has Jalen Duran, who is one of the youngest players in the league. I think he is the youngest player in the league. Very good.
Very good.
You talked about everyone
great
else
2K investment.
Yeah, and it's probably just a bunch of guys that Monty feels like, he can actually get a hold of this locker room and grow with these guys. I mean, he signed a long deal. I think it makes more sense for Monty to want to go to Detroit than for Detroit to pay Monty all this money, but we'll see how it works out. I'm intrigued by it. I still think Detroit's one of the biggest question marks, but they're also, in that same breath, it could be very fun in Detroit. And I hope not for Jake's sake.
Who the most interesting free agent signing would be is if Draymond Green returns home to Michigan, and that's who
I've seen
the leader of that. Yeah, I've seen that. I think we've probably seen the same thing, and that would make a lot of if Monty is the guy, and it's with the idea that Monty has communicated with Draymond is like, let's go build something here, and maybe Draymond is down to want to go back home and just do something like that outside. He's probably not going to end up in Golden. I think he's gone from Golden State at this point. I really don't see I just don't see a path of, unless they're going to have that crazy, the tax bill is just going to be so crazy for Golden State next year that I don't know. But if that's a really I feel like that makes a lot of sense for both Draymond and for the Pistons, and for him to just be in that role would be really interesting.
Yeah, it would. That I think that'd be crazy. Maybe we get a whole new era of bad boys in Detroit if Draymond goes there.
Yeah, that'd be some. That team.
Yeah.
You know how much Cavs fans would hate Draymond Green if he went from Warriors to the Pistons. How could they hate him
more than they do
now?
The
only way.
That's the only way. Especially if the Pistons became good too, like Cade stayed healthy and the Pistons were a good team with Draymond just kind of as that leader. Well, Cavs fans would have bounties on his head.
I will say, the biggest thing I didn't like about this news is that I know that I will send you guys a text at some point next year about a Pistons Cavs game where I'm like, JB is getting ran circles around by Monty Williams tonight. That will happen. That will happen. Because it happens to every JB. It doesn't happen to very many coaches that JB doesn't get run circles around. Monty will do it.
Yeah, that would be bad. That'd be tough. Let's hope you don't have to send that text, Jake. One last coaching news. I did just downplay the assistant coach's signing, so I won't spend much time on this. Boy. But Sam Cassell, new assistant coach of the Boston Celtics. The only reason I think it's relevant is because they literally don't have assistant coaches right now because they were already shorthanded going into Missoula being the head coach, and then they lost the head coach to college basketball, or they lost an assistant coach to college basketball, And then right as their season ended, 3 guys up and left and are joining Ime Udoka's staff in Houston. So signing Sam Cassell, championship experience, which Brad said he wanted more NBA experience on his bench, goes out, gets Sam Cassell, and now the rumor mill is jumping all around of potential names, and Rondo's in the mix, and I cannot contain my excitement for that. So I'll leave it at that. I'm excited that Brad's doing
wasn't
what he
Sam
said.
Cassell rumored? Wasn't he rumored as a head coaching candidate when Ime got hired too?
Correct. Yeah. Not when Ime left, but before Ime got hired.
Yeah.
Like during the Brad Ime transition, Sam was a candidate. Yes.
Yeah. So and that's like, it's a guy that clearly they liked for the role then. So why not bring him in and be a part of the staff? We knew that they needed a guy with that kind of pedigree, or that they were going to look for a guy like that. So it's a good start to have a full bench. You know what might help the Celtics next year? A full bench of coaches, which the first year head coach did not have, which is, I just feel like is a crazy underrated storyline, like the whole year. Like not having your full staff overlooked. Is like, I just couldn't even imagine.
And
like,
not even for the results of the season, just for how much
workload,
got
just
shit
life.
On.
Yeah, just life in general. Like work-life balance for those guys is probably insane this year. They were just put in a tough spot. So I hope that they get a full staff, which I'm sure the Celtics organization would have no problem filling out. Yeah, but they got snuck attack last year, so
yeah,
who knows?
And the last thing I'll say here, my big galaxy brain for this situation is we bring in Rondo, which would just be awesome. We know he's one of the best basketball minds out there, and then even bigger galaxy brain, Doc Rivers returns as an assistant coach to reverse the curse. So he can stop losing as a head coach, comes back to Boston, takes a backseat, which I don't think he would ever do, especially because he can get big money.
Chance.
He can get big money
I don't
elsewhere
know.
in the NBA.
The musical chairs is running out for Doc right now.
Doc will go to Shanghai before he becomes an assistant coach in the NBA. Let's be honest.
That's me wishful thinking. That's my galaxy brain. Don't think
Rondo though would be awesome.
Well, yeah, that's like
Rondo's reasonable.
Yeah, that's
that would be awesome.
I think that would be fantastic for many reasons. But we'll let that play out. I'll let in Brad we trust. I trust Brad Stevens will make the right moves, and we'll see. Do you guys want to do Team USA or the new supervillain team first?
Oh,
superhero.
What do you mean? You talk.
That's the Avengers for
earlier.
Well, they'd be villains to me.
Yeah, they would be villains to 29 teams in the NBA, Tony. That is what this would do. But Kyrie,
we'll start
the
with
most
this.
Kyrie fashion, is trying to recruit his former buddy LeBron to play with him again. And knowing Kyrie, first off, Kyrie trying to recruit LeBron to Dallas. And we've seen rumors that, Draymond will be a good fit in Dallas. Draymond wants to play with LeBron. So I think we used it as the post today, the custom-made picture where you got Luka, Kyrie, LeBron, and Draymond.
Work of art.
All in Mavs jerseys. Now, as an unbiased NBA fan and as a Luka supporter, I would love Luka to get a little bit of help. But a little bit of help. But I got a few questions. First off, like what in the world are the Mavs to try to offer to even get LeBron? Where's the money coming from? Secondly, and third, like how many times how many times have we heard, Kyrie wants to play with LeBron. Kyrie wants to play with LeBron here. Kyrie doesn't want, like LeBron wants to play with Kyrie, and then just nothing happens. It's just one of those things that I'm not going to believe until it happens. Kyrie can say, I want LeBron to play as much. I still think, you want to talk galaxy brain, Donnie, I still think LeBron might just sit out this year. LeBron just might sit out this year and play with Bronny next year. He's gonna watch his kid play at USC, have a nice relaxing time, figure out which team he wants to go to, and he probably won't. He'll probably stay on the Lakers and play like 35 games out of the 80, have a few rest days. Happens to be when USC's
the ankle sprains are going to be
happens to have some ankle sprains, some fatigue, some headaches when USC has some pretty good games that night. But I think the big thing for LeBron is he wants to play with Bronny when Bronny comes to the league, in a year. And I really do believe that. And maybe not sit out the entire year, but I think LeBron doesn't really want to have a year where he's going all in. He wants to go to a team. So I think that's kind of where it feels stretched, where LeBron moves to a new team this year, especially a team like the Mavs, where it is so question marks of what this future is going to be. We've heard everything this offseason to the Mavs. Oh, not even just this offseason, this whole season. Oh, the Mavs want to try to get a couple more superstars to play with Luka, form a super team can the Mavs even keep Luka? Is Cuban running out of options? Do they have to trade Luka to try to rebuild their future, which they've basically burnt down? The Mavs' previous deals haven't worked out in their favor, so it just feels like a classic, Kyrie calling up his buddy, being like, "Hey, do you want to play basketball?" And LeBron sending him the voicemail. That's how it feels to me right now. But I think that's also partly because I don't believe that LeBron would switch a team maybe just for a year to try to get another, little super team built, because I truly believe that LeBron is envisioning in a year he's going to be playing with his son. I really do. And I don't think he's going to want to screw anything up that'll screw that up, honestly.
Here's what I think happened here, Steve.
Oh, boy.
Because there was a report 2 days before this even came out that the Lakers said they had no interest in pursuing Kyrie Irving, according to Johan Buva, who is a great reporter from The Athletic, covers the Lakers. No interest. So 2 days later, we then get a very convenient report from Shams, who we know Shams' source of Kyrie Irving is literally texting Kyrie Irving in his phone and saying, "Hey, do you want to say something?" Like, Shams has literally had like statement from source close to Kyrie Irving all season long. Like, we know that there's a connection there.
It's just
I think
phone number.
LeBron and Kyrie want to team up. And really the only way they can do it is in Los Angeles. And so when the Lakers come out through Buha and say, "We're not going after Kyrie," they're saying that to LeBron. Like, "We're not pursuing Kyrie. Don't try this." So then Kyrie and LeBron got together and we're like, "Well, Kyrie, why don't you just say that you want me to come to Dallas? Like, I'm a free agent in a year. Like, just show them that we're serious. Like, we want to team up no matter what." It's LeBron it's LeBron and Kyrie putting pressure on both these organizations to try to figure it out, to get it together. And I think LeBron's role, and just the fact that the Lakers said 2 days ago, "We're not pursuing Kyrie," and then he says, "Well, I want to team up with Bron," though, it's just very calculated. And I think this LeBron-Kyrie back and forth is going to be a narrative that extends especially once the finals ends, is going to be one of the dominating free agency storylines. Yeah, because
it'll be the Brooklyn Nets.
LeBron wants Kyrie in Los Angeles, is what I think. And I think Kyrie wouldn't mind going to Los Angeles, but the Lakers don't really want him, and he wouldn't mind staying in Dallas either, probably as a backup plan. And he's trying to like thread that needle. And we know Kyrie isn't good at this. He's not good at doing this. He tried to do it last summer, and it didn't work.
He might be the worst at it.
He's doing it again. Like, this is last summer. Just put LeBron on a different team. Like, them trying to get together.
You know what?
It's the same shit.
Kyrie is literally lighting the King James symbol in the sky for LeBron.
It is
like Batman. He's lighting the King James symbol like the Batman symbol in the sky, and just saying, whatever city I can light this off in, I'll meet you at. But the thing is, I don't know if the Mavs want Kyrie, bro.
That's the thing. Who knows?
I don't think they do after the way the second half of the season went. I'll tell you that. The Mavs, and I know they got a little bit, slap on the wrist, didn't really care treatment for this, but you could clearly tell the Mavs, the way that the year ended, when they fell from the 4 seed to out of the playoffs and didn't even play Luka and Kyrie, because they were like, would rather have a chance at getting a lottery pick than trying to make the playoffs in a play-in game, which is absurd to me. But, I get it. And they did get the 10th overall pick. They did keep the pick. But, man, dude.
Kind of crazy that worked like that for them.
It did work out. It did work out for him, but also, too, it's just like when you trade for a superstar type player midway at the deadline and you're the 4 seed and you fall out of the playoffs, it's tough to have everybody on board saying, "Let's bring this guy back." They got a lot, besides just the fact that it's Kyrie, and Kyrie's got, his, 2 million pounds of baggage with him. Besides that, it's tough for the Mavs. They have internal pressure of, what are we doing here? We have a, potential generational type star in Luka Doncic, who we had a home run on in the draft. We haven't figured out anybody how we can, put guys around him. Christian Wood didn't work out. The Porzingis deal clearly didn't work out for him. Now you have the Kyrie one blow up in their face. They're running out of options, and the clock's ticking where if you run out of enough options, you're going to have to get rid of Luka and do a complete overhaul rebuild. So you're right, Dunny. There's a lot of people thinking, do we even want to bring Kyrie back? Because clearly we had a 30-plus game sample size, and it did not work.
Right. And they might not want to, and I strongly believe that they don't want to, but they probably have to.
Right.
Because you just mentioned the haul they just traded for him, and now he's an unrestricted free agent. So they probably don't want him, but they're going to have to do everything in their power to sign him just to have the value of Kyrie Irving back on their team. Because as of right now, he's technically not even a Maverick. He could walk at any moment. So it's really interesting. Do I think Draymond, LeBron, Kyrie, and Luka all end up together on the Mavs? No. But do I think there's some combination of LeBron, Kyrie, or LeBron, Draymond, or LeBron, Kyrie, and Draymond playing together? Yeah, or Draymond just going to Dallas and it's Kyrie, Draymond, and Luka. I could see that. I don't think all of them together, but I think those all four of the guys that we're talking about right now, outside of maybe Jaylen Brown, will be the most talked about stars this offseason, I would guess.
I do think Draymond would be a nice fit in Dallas because that's the type of defensive guy they need. That's type of kind of, guy in the locker room they need to get everybody
He's going to have a huge market, bro.
I think he will. I really do.
He's going to have a huge market.
Absolutely. But what the Mavs need to do, they just need to have Mark Cuban and Shark Tape episode with Kyrie Irving and just try to figure it out. Try to work a deal that way because I don't know what else this team's going to do.
We'll see, man. We have a lengthy offseason. I'm sure I know we will come back to this team and this group of guys.
Oh, yeah.
Before we hop into previewing Game 3 and discussing Game 2, the people are starting to throw their name out there for Team USA, which is always a fun time of year. You don't have the NBA anymore. The finals are about to come to a close. And then you get to see these guys that, you start to fall in love with during the regular season. A lot of the guys are young, and then you get to watch them on a different stage, and it's fun. And I know me and Steve, Jake, I'm sure as well, are excited about Mikal Bridges. I think he's probably a player I'm most excited for on Team USA. And then I'll just go down the list for you guys. Austin Reeves, Bobby Portis, Jalen Brunson, Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton, Brandon Ingram, and Jaren Jackson Jr. I believe there's 4 spots to be filled on Team USA, so we'll see who those last 4 guys are. But, I mean, you got to be excited with this group. How dominant they will be, I don't know, but some of the youngest, most talented players in the league are on this squad, and going to be exciting to watch at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see guys like this, get their chance in the shining moment. I think we have a couple, and I know they've kind of already broken out a little bit this year where people recognize them. Obviously, the move to the Knicks really helped Jalen Brunson jump out there where people are like, wow, this guy is really good. But a couple other names, I mean, you got Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram is one of the most unappreciated stars in the NBA, in my opinion. I think he's fantastic when he's healthy. And then Tyrese Halliburton, which is finally starting to get love after this year too. But he's in Indiana. Indiana's kind of a tough market to really break out. This is a chance for these 2 guys to really, show the world that these guys are pretty much going to become superstars in this league. We know we kind of had that for Mikal Bridges when he got traded from Phoenix to Brooklyn as well. But, it's a nice group of guys. And then, say what you want about Bobby Portis, be it on a Team USA roster. Bobby Portis has been a great guy off the bench for Milwaukee all year.
Yep.
So it's a bunch of names, if you're watching basketball every night like we are, you recognize these names. But like I said, to the common fan, they don't really, know the talent of what a lot of these guys can bring. So it's nice to give them, their moment too.
Yeah, I think Anthony Edwards too. Definitely.
I think he's becoming a household name at this point.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But I think a nice little way for him to showcase himself as an individual, because the way Minnesota is looking, And the way they kind of messed up their future for that Gobert trade, who knows how long he's going to stay there.
Yeah.
Who knows how long that nucleus of him, Cat, and Gobert is going to be together. So I think this is pretty important for Ant as well. I'm looking forward to see Anthony Edwards play in a Team USA uniform. Any more thoughts on the Team USA before we get into the good stuff?
Nah, it's going to be a fun squad. Wait, what's the good stuff?
WNBA?
NBA Finals
tonight.
Yes, we will end the episode with a little WNBA from Steve. But before we get to that, the Heat have done what no one else could do these playoffs. LeBron and AD couldn't do it. KD and Booker couldn't do it. They took down the Denver Nuggets in Denver. The Nuggets finally lost a home game. The series is tied at 1. Game 3 is tomorrow. If you're listening live, this is Tuesday. Game 3 is Wednesday. And it was shocking to me. That's all I can say. I the Heat threw the first punch. Nuggets responded, and then I was like, oh, it's over. The Nuggets are going to go up 2-0. And then that Duncan Robinson missed the fourth quarter, and then it all spiraled from there, bro.
And I think the craziest part is, we talked about it, and we said this, we feel like the Nuggets should win this in maybe a sweep or 5, but this is probably going to go 6 or 7, just the way the Heat have been. Everyone's been doubting the Heat the whole playoffs run, and they're proving us wrong. But, guys, we have not gotten an A game from Jimmy Butler in the finals yet. Game one was not great. Game 1 was not great. Game 2, a little bit better. He did come alive in the fourth quarter, but still not great. And it's the Heat role players again. Now, first, I will say Bam has had an exceptional start to the NBA Finals compared to how the playoffs have been formed normally. But once again, it's these Heat role guys. You talk about, these role guys, they're going to be inconsistent. They're going to be up and down. And I know Dunny hates hearing this because they were just lights out for basically 7 games against the Celtics. But you have a guy like Max Strus, who was 0 for 10 from the field in game 1 and comes back, and he was the leading scorer about halfway through the game in game 2. Max Strus was making everything. Gabe Vincent has been incredible. You just have guys like this at the Miami Heat where it's just you think they're going to fall apart. And like you said, Dunny, and it's funny too with Duncan Robinson. We were talking about him in my group chat with my buddies. We're like, where is he today? He's played 5 minutes in the first half. He's just running around. He's running track out there. And one of my buddies I think he had some parlay, and he needed Duncan Robinson to get over 8.5 points for it to hit. He's like, this is dead. Everything else was looking good. In the fourth quarter. This is dead. All in the fourth quarter, about the first 4 minutes of the fourth quarter. And it's just, it feels like every single game, you can't count the Heat out. Because even if Jimmy Butler's not at his best, even when Bam's struggling, they just find this next man up, this guy to just step up. And I got to give the Heat credit because they've done this in pretty much every series. And they were probably the first team, I think, to do it against the Nuggets where the Heat were up big and then the Nuggets went on that run where they're not missing anything. And it's like they're going to run you out of their gym. It's just going to happen. And the Heat battled back once again. And it's just... I don't know what to say, but it was the one game. Game 2 really felt like a finals game. It felt like one of the best playoff games of the entire playoffs. But all credit goes to the Heat, where you stole a game in Denver, which looked virtually impossible. This is a brand new series now because, Miami's got a pretty good home court advantage themselves. And you stole a game where your best player and the guy who's basically carried your team to the playoffs these past 4 years, really not having an A game. And it's scary because we know, and I know you're dealing with an injury, Jake. I know Jimmy Butler hasn't been 100%, but we know Jimmy's got it in him. We know it doesn't matter. Jimmy's still got it in him to have one of those classic Jimmy Butler takeover games. You didn't get that in either game in Denver. And if you showed me Jimmy's shooting numbers, his stats, you showed me, just had me watch just Jimmy Butler in the first 2 games, I'm like, Denver's up 2-0 in probably 2 blowouts. But the Miami Heat, man, they just have these guys that step up, and we got a whole new series now.
They shot 49% from 3 in that game 2 win. They shot their games against Boston. I know they shot, I think, 51% one of those wins. And maybe the first game, I don't remember what it was, the high 40s or low 50s. I know they did it against Milwaukee, one of those games too, because I remember seeing it against Milwaukee and being like, well, shit, if Miami's going to do that, of course they're going to win a game, because the shooting for this year, Miami, like during the season, it was everybody kind of had down years compared to their standard. And this is like them regressing back to their mean at the absolute right time. And like you said, never would have expected it without Jimmy, just the way the fight, like the way the Nuggets, that's just a credit to how good the Nuggets have been too. Like the Nuggets have just been so dominant that you're like, man, you really need like the superstars clicking and things to go right. And they had Bam cooking. He, like you said, he's been playing awesome. The shooting and the players, like, it's just incredible that these guys are able to step up and just knock down these shots like this in that environment. It's I don't know how it doesn't go 7, honestly, at this point. I think I'm back with you now, Steve. We're at 6, because I don't think that if it gets to a game 6, either of these teams, if it gets to a game 6 and one of these teams is down facing elimination, I don't see how either of them is going to lose. I feel like both of these teams are so well tested, so battle tested, and just like so well coached and everything, that they're going to be able to battle back and get out of that situation. And we're going to end up in a game 7 because they just seemed that, like you said, this felt like the first real finals game where it was back and forth, and we're going to have that same exact chess match game 3 Wednesday night again. Like, and it's going to be a push and pull. And I just don't see how if Miami's down 3-2 at home, they're not letting them. I just don't see how they're going to lose that game. I don't know. I just feel like this is going 7 the way that these two teams have kind of opened up the series and shaped or sized each other up right now.
Yeah, it's for me, it literally just comes down to these undrafted guys and the unlikely heroes for the Heat, and if they can just do what they've been doing for 3 series for 2 more games, I'd say, because Jimmy's going to come alive at one point. Jimmy's been pedestrian at best, and not to say he didn't hit big shots last game, because he did. Mm-hmm. Also, just a quick side note, I noticed this the other night. Jimmy Butler hits the most fuck you shots out of anyone in the whole NBA. He'll like have Jokic 15 feet away from the basket, draped all over him, and he just fades away, and it's going in when it leaves his hands. Like, he loves hitting the impossible shots.
And that was the thing. The fourth quarter, like, Jimmy didn't have a good game, and then the fourth quarter he just made the shots he had to make. Shot clock winding down, I think, on 2 or 3 of them.
A couple of them, yeah.
And that's when Jimmy, and that's what we're saying, that's a bad game from Jimmy Butler in the playoffs, because he really was pedestrian the first 3 quarters of that game.
That fourth quarter was something different, though, like just from the Heat in general. Like, and that's why that's what fuels that theory about the game 6 and everything, because they were like, we need this fourth quarter. We are going, like, and they have 28 points with like 4 minutes left or whatever in the quarter, and you're like, holy shit, like, this game also, like, I thought this was gonna be a classic battle. Miami is just in control now. It was just so crazy. It was like 3 minutes. I think 3 minutes in was the Duncan layup when they went up 2 and they called the timeout and everything. And at that moment, you're like, what am I like? How did Duncan Robinson just like boss up and
he's going to the rim?
The crowd, and they're up
Duncan's attacking the rim. What is this?
Yeah, off like a pump fake blow by.
Like,
you're like, that's how you know. Like, that's when you know the Heat are feeling themselves. They're like, what the fuck? Like, what are we doing here? What are you gonna say, Donnie?
No, I was just gonna say we were ragging on the NBA Finals earlier. I will say the fourth quarter of Game 2 felt the most like the NBA Finals, I think, out of any of the quarters in both the games. So maybe that's hope from a fan's perspective. It did, obviously ended in a 3-point game. The Nuggets still had their shot. I think that's the encouraging thing if you're Denver, right? They still had their shot, even though they blew a huge opportunity. And then Jimmy Butler, we keep saying it, and I feel like I'm going to jinx it, but he hasn't been playing that great. Like, the Nuggets have to feel at least good about their job they're doing on Jimmy. And like I said, if they can just contain these undrafted, these, unlikely hero guys for the Miami Heat, they'll be all right, because Michael Porter Jr. shot horrible last game.
Terrible.
He was non-existent, and he's supposed to be the third fiddle on this team. And then Jamal Murray, he shot okay from the field, but 3 of 8 from 3-point. Like, that's unlike him in these playoffs. He's been lights out too. So you're not getting that shooting and production from 2 of your top 3 guys. Obviously, Jokic destroys the box score with 41 points, but we've seen it before. Jokic can't do it by himself. Right. So this series, what we all thought was going to be, 5, maybe a sweep after game one, it gets that much more interesting, and there's just all these different storylines that you wouldn't expect from looking at this matchup on paper, but here we are, Duncan Robinson's world that we're just living in it.
Apparently, and another thing too, like on the other side of the ball, the Nuggets just had some really bad fouls in game 2 as well. I think they had a couple fouls at 3-pointers.
KCP,
Their
bro.
best defender, KCP, what are you doing? Keep landing on guys shooting threes. He did that a few times in game 2,
yes.
stuff like that. And I think we talked about this too, where we were saying foul trouble could hurt the Heat, where if Bam gets in foul trouble, who are you going to play? And apparently right now, and I'm not going to rant about this, but apparently Spoelstra's answer is let's play Cody Zeller some minutes against Jokic. That should never be the answer. I'd rather play 4-on-5 than throw Cody Zeller on the court. But regardless, the foul trouble kind of went the other way, where it wasn't even like guys were getting in foul trouble for Denver. They were just committing really bad fouls. A lot of fouls where Miami was late in the shot clock. Like we said, Dunny, KCP jumped into 3 guys shooting threes yesterday. I mean, what are you doing? And just really bad timely fouls where that's just not like the Nuggets. And it feels like you can't do that, especially with a team like the Heat, where they can just start going off like that. And in the fourth quarter, that's all they had. They just stopped missing shots. The Heat made their first 8 of 9 field goals or something ridiculous to start the fourth quarter. It's just, if you're the Nuggets, you got to be a little bit disappointed too, because Jokic had a great game, but I think that was the Miami game plan. They started to go into a zone a little bit, but they would kind of guard Jokic as soon as he got the ball up front, and they would say, you know what? Score 40 on us. We don't care. We're going to make it tough for everyone else to get open looks. And if you're looking towards game 3, I think one guy who's kind of been decent this, final so far, the people I talk about, Aaron Gordon has a pretty nice mismatch right now in the Miami Heat. I think they got to get him involved.
Oh, it's amazing, bro.
I think Aaron Gordon's got to get involved a little bit more, because I think he's been the second best player right now in these first 2 games for the Nuggets.
In an even broader sense, I know Denver loves to play fast, and playing slow would play into Miami's hands, but they have such a size advantage everywhere that they should just play. Like, it really should just be grinded out. Like, Denver could win these games 99-87 because they're not going to be able to stop Jokic and Gordon all night, or they're just going to rack up fouls and be going to the line the whole time. Like, I know they want to play fast, but if you, like you were talking about, Dunny, if Porter and Murray start shooting like shit in the first half, just go to the block. You have the best center of our generation. Like, if you need to slow the game down and just let him work from the low post, like, sometimes you just got to do that shit. Sometimes play the hits.
I get that.
Game 1 too, right? It was working.
It's just sometimes, I think, tough, Jake, to change up the style your team's been playing with, especially how successful it's been for the Nuggets. Because, we said the same thing about all these series. They're like, do they really want to run with this team, run with this team, run with this team? Their defense is going to be great. Their defense has been great these playoffs, and they're still running. They're still playing fast through the offense. And I think you're right. Like, you should slow it down a little bit. But I also think with the Denver Nuggets, you got to stay true to what's gotten you here this far. Play your game. And I really do believe, I know you have the size mismatch, but we talked about it too. The Miami Heat have basically been smaller than every team they faced so far, and they've adjusted to it, and they've out-physicaled them. They want it more, and I know this is their toughest test yet with the size, but I think the Nuggets just got to stick to their style. I really do. I truly believe I've watched enough Nuggets games this year where they have a deep enough roster. They have a good enough team around Jokic. The shots are going to fall. MPJ is not going to play the way he's playing.
And the Heat are not going to shoot 49% every night. And if they do, they fucking deserve. And if they do, they deserve to win the NBA Finals. If they are going to do this for 3 more games in the finals and shoot 50% from 3, they deserve to win the finals. But I don't think that they're going to be able to do that. I think Malone will have a better adjustment, and then we'll see. That's the thing is Malone and Spoelstra. It's gonna start now that we've seen each other for 2 games. I'm very interested to see how they kind of attack each other and try to take away see how the Nuggets try to get Porter and Murray loose, because they're not worried about Jokic then, because the Heat are gonna let Jokic score. Like, that's what they said. They're like, we'll do whatever we need to these other guys, and what the Nuggets are gonna try to do to their shooters, because they couldn't get in their face at all.
Have we heard?
Or they fouled and stepped on people.
Have we heard anything about Tyler Hero game 3?
Out for game 3.
He's confirmed out now. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he comes back at all this series?
I wouldn't.
I think if the Heat would have lost game 2, maybe they would have rushed it back game 3. If the Heat win game 3, why would you bring it back game 4?
Yeah.
Right.
I think even if they lose, and of course this is Eric Spoelstra's team that I'm talking about, literally the last person that I should be trying to figure out his scheme.
Right.
Like I think he knows a lot better than I do, but I don't know if I would at all, man. Like think about how out of their mind some of these guys like Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, and Caleb Martin up until these last 2 games have been. And like they weren't doing that before when Tyler Hero was playing, at least not to this degree. So I'm with you, yeah, Steve. Maybe if they do take a bad L in game 3 at home, they think about bringing them back game 4. But like, what value? Like, we don't even know what type of value you're going to get from Tyler Hero.
Right. Well, I mean, we don't know how
injury.
Yeah, we don't know
scorer who's a shooter, and
true.
We don't know what that looks like, and it's just tough. It's almost like the Celtics going with Brogdon in game 7. Now, I don't think it's to the same degree. But they put Brogdon in the first half after he sat out game 6 and we won. He airballed his first shot. He couldn't do anything with the ball.
Yeah.
And then they didn't play in the second half, and it was already too late at that point. So obviously different situations, but I don't know if you bring him back at all.
Yeah, I think it also could be too. Like, I don't know how healthy he is. I don't think anyone's really going to know besides the Miami Heat for that. But it also feels like it too. Like if these guys are still cooking the way they're cooking, they're role players, maybe just have Hero come off the bench a little bit. If you really want to play him like 10, 15 minutes off the bench and see how he is in a game situation. See if this guy gets hot. I wouldn't, throw him right back into the fire. But I also say this too, and I know you guys disagree a little bit on this, but Tyler Hero makes your team better. He makes the Miami Heat team better. And whether, he's playing a starting lineup like he has this year and playing 36, 38 minutes, being the number 2 option right after Jimmy Butler, or if he's just coming off the bench for 10 minutes, getting some shots up. And another guy too, which we don't talk about a little bit, he can handle the ball a little bit. And I know it's an injury. We don't know how it's going to affect him, but he's another guy too. You can kind of run the offense through a little bit now. We've seen it in the regular season. Didn't really get to see it in the playoffs, obviously, because of the injury. I would have loved to see it because I think he really did take a step in the regular season. But if he's good to go, you at least got to give him a little bit of a run, I think. I personally believe like he makes the Heat team better, and I know their role players have been going great. But I really do. I don't think, and the way Spoelstra works, even though they did win game 2, I think if Hero was able to go and play, he would play. He would play game 3. Yeah. I don't think Spoelstra would be like, I'm just going to keep him off the court because it's going to switch up stuff. I don't think that's how he would operate.
I have 2 reasons why I kind of want them to play Hero. One is his fits on the sideline, his outfits on the sideline have been absolute garbage, bro. I don't know who's dressed in Tyler Hero, if it's himself, but I would like to see him just in a game uniform opposed to what he's been wearing. And number 2, this is Salty Donnie coming out if you couldn't tell. I don't want to hear if the Miami Heat end up losing and Tyler Hero doesn't play a game. I don't want to hear from the Heat fans that, it would have been different if Tyler Hero played. If they lose, no, it wouldn't have been.
No, it's a successful season for the Heat either way.
I'm with you, Steve, though. You're right. If he's healthy enough and he's cleared fully, I think if you're Spo, you gotta try something, right?
Yeah.
The one thing is also his confidence level in coming back from an injury. With that, he might not be fully confident game level for the game 4 of the NBA Finals.
I don't think Hero's a guy you have to worry about for confidence. I would be. There's a lot of NBA players. Man,
Tyler Hero on a good night, fully healthy, has come out and went 0 for 9 and thrown up some of the ugliest shots I've seen.
No, I know that
happened. So
but he keeps shooting. I
don't know. I could see a guy not wanting to come back 7 weeks after an injury into a finals game and be like, hey, you got to come produce, or we want you to produce something. That's a lot to ask of a guy.
I get that, but just the way Tyler Hero carries himself, the way you've kind of seen him in the past 2, I don't think that's a concern for Tyler Hero. I don't think Tyler Hero is a guy who would shy away from the ball and be like, oh, I'm not ready. The spotlight's too bright for me.
I'm not saying the spotlight's too bright. I'm saying you're just not like, if you're 90% in your hand and you, because of that, you have 2 more turnovers and you lose by 4, Like that's going to live with him for a longer time than rather coming back too early and messing up what this team has been able to do for 7 weeks. I think that's a real thing he's weighing at the moment.
That's fair. I just don't think Tyler Hero. I think mentally he's more on the Jimmy Butler side of where he's like,
and that's my problem with Tyler Hero.
Yeah, I know. You're not Jimmy Butler, but I get it. Like I just feel like that's how he is mentally. Where I don't think Hero. If Spoelstra says you're playing 15 minutes, I bet Hero tries to get 12 shots up in those 15 minutes.
Yeah.
No, like that's how I feel. Like Hero's on the other end of the spectrum for that.
Do you guys know what the odds and the betting like tickets are on right now? Do you know what the odds
for Game 3 or the series price?
Game 3, just Game 3.
I don't.
I bet a lot of people are on the Heat because they're probably home dogs, right?
What? Guess the line. What's the line?
I'm guessing 3. I was gonna say Nuggets minus 2.5.
Dunny, you're right on. Yep, minus 2.5, and it's 51% of the money on Denver. It's right down the middle.
Wow.
So this is like this is one of the most down the middle bets I've seen all playoffs, because that line at 2.5 for a finals game is like, that's pretty split. Like you're gonna get you what that's about as close as you can get on a floor.
The Heat are getting, it's basically like Nuggets are favored by 1 or 2 on a neutral court essentially.
Yeah. And 51 and 49 on the tickets is it. And I just say that to wondering who's gonna like how the game will be ref tomorrow and everything too. How physical these games. The fouls were a big story in Game 1. And I think it was just the physicality that Miami really wasn't ready for from Denver. I don't think that Denver is just such a more physically imposing team, and it kind of worked itself way out in Game 2. I'm just interested to see what kind of game we have, the pace, the fouls, with a Game 3 with just so these teams so evenly matched. I think they're gonna have answers for each other. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be an interesting atmosphere. But clearly, everybody else agrees with us. Like, who the fuck knows what's gonna happen?
It feels like the books are favoring Miami a little bit, because you look Game 1, Nuggets favored by 9. I think 9.5. Game 2, despite the Nuggets kind of dominating the Heat, the line moved in Miami's favor to like 8.5. And now you look, and the Heat are, there's still dogs at home, but it's a little more respectable, where I think if, the Nuggets had won Game 2, or look, the Heat didn't really have the fourth quarter they did, I could see Heat being 5-point dogs. Because even when they played the Celtics, the Heat were still, dogs at home, and they were pretty big dogs on the road. So it's the books kind of being like, you know what, like maybe we got to start respecting this Miami Heat too.
Real,
I think everybody who is fans of the NBA is learning as we go through these playoffs. They're like, I can't doubt the Heat anymore. I got to just respect them and see what happens. Because on paper, they were worse than maybe every team, maybe besides the Knicks, that they went up against in the playoffs on paper. Maybe even the Knicks have a better, roster. You can make the argument either way there. But they proved everybody wrong in 3 straight series. So
even Vegas is getting tricked by the zombie Heat.
I know, man. They just won't die, dude. This team won't go away.
I bet anything on that. I'm just gonna bet Heat money line, because there's it's just like you might as fucking well, right? Like at this point, just keep riding with them. It's insane though.
And I think they split. I think they split the 2 home games.
They're going 7, right? Like we're getting 7 out of this. I really think that. Yeah, I think
the Nuggets are too good to lose 3 straight, and the Heat aren't losing both in Miami. That's how I feel.
I think I'm sticking to my guns that Denver and 6.
Okay. But I'm still going 7 Denver, but I'm still going 7. I think
my last
Denver,
my last thought here. Do you guys think we have a Jokic brothers sighting in Miami? I know they've been in Denver. I don't know if they're even going to go to Miami. But
the Jokic brothers. Ooh.
I feel like this is where it could get testy. Go to Miami.
I was wondering there's going to be some crazy celebrities this week too. Wednesday might be good, but Friday night in Miami, NBA Finals, it's going to be lit there. It's going to be crazy. Jokic brothers starting some shit. Yeah, that definitely could happen.
I feel like it has to happen in if they're in Miami. I feel like that's where it has to happen.
They gotta go.
Also, if anyone out there hasn't, or if you guys haven't listened to Michael Malone's interview on Part of My Take, his little blurb about the Jokic brothers was awesome. So if you guys haven't listened to that, go listen to that. That was great. But I want these guys to get in the mix, dude. Especially with the history between these two teams. I'm dying to find out. I'm sure I could if I watch the video enough times. But you guys see how Jimmy Butler said before the series started that during that whole scuffle when Jokic hit Markieff Morris to the ground and then the teams almost fought. Jimmy said that his gestures to someone meet him out back, those were not for Jokic, and they were someone else on the Denver team.
Really?
But I've still yet to figure out who he was talking about.
Interesting.
So maybe that will come to light in Miami.
Yeah, we could see a little physical game in Miami, right? A little scrappy game.
We haven't really had enough bad blood yet.
No, and 3-4 now. Like the tension now is raised. Like there's a level that just got raised after you get a tie series going to game 3 and 4. Like, whew, it's
altitude here, dude. They have a little more breath to fool around.
No more breath.
Maybe. Yeah. Let's see.
It's gonna be crazy. Hey, Miami's a great finals atmosphere too, because we didn't obviously didn't see it during the bubble, so we get to see it for the first time since the Heat days back then. Like it's gonna be rocking there, and the Panthers too this weekend.
Yes, back and forth. I was gonna say it's funny because I agree with you that the Miami has a great finals atmosphere, but they must be the biggest discrepancy from regular season game to finals or playoff in general, because there is no one there in the regular season.
No, they're meant for the NBA finals. Like they could just have like neutral site finals games in Miami and it'd be great. But you put a game in February against the Hornets and you could do some homework.
Yeah, Alonzo Mourning and Pat Riley have 8 rows to themselves when that's the case.
That's really why they sit in the crowd. They're like, well, no one else is here, so we might as well just hang out.
Fill these seats. We pay for them.
And I don't blame. This is no hate to anybody. Like I always understand. Why would you go to these games? Go to the beach, bro. Why are you sitting inside? Finals, wake me up when it's the playoffs. Then I'll come inside.
All right. Any closing thoughts from you guys? We got game 3 tomorrow. I think all of us are still on the Nuggets. Or Jake, have you flip-flopped? Are you on the Heat?
For the series? No, I'm still on the Nuggets. Okay. It's Nuggets in 7, but I think the Heat might win tomorrow.
All right. I got Denver tomorrow. I think bounce back. Steve, who you got tomorrow?
I think I'm going to go with I'm gonna go with Denver too. I'm gonna go with Denver too. The Heat played almost a near perfect game shooting wise, especially in the fourth quarter. And like you said, Dunny, Denver still had a shot. It was still a 3-point game. Yeah. It's just this team's too talented. You have to have so much go right against you when you play. And I just feel like this is just gonna be a trading game series. I really do. The way these teams are, the way they've been all playoffs. So I'll take Denver tomorrow, and I'm still Denver in 7.
Sweet. All right, you guys heard it. Follow Trainwreck Sports. Go check them out. Follow them on Twitter at Trainwreck Sports without the O. Follow the 3 of us. Follow Happy Hour Hoops 1 on all social media. Keep up with us through the NBA Finals, and we will see you guys next week. Enjoy the games. Go Nuggets. Peace.